Okay, so this unit, we're still part of the same unit in Unit 8. This is just the second half. So what we're going to be talking about this unit is over factoring. You guys already know what factors are. For example, if I gave you the number 10, okay, we know that factors of 10 could be 1 and 10. We know that factors could be 2 and 5. We know that even like -1 and -10, or -2 and -5 are all factors of 10. So factors are basically what could be multiplied to get that number. Now in the past, y'all have learned about something called a GCF. So we're going to be looking at that today. We're going to see that that is the very first step of factoring. What we're going to be doing, we're going to be factoring binomials. So remember that's 2 terms. We're going to be doing trinomials, 3 terms. And then we're going to do 4-term factoring. So today we're mainly just focusing on the GCF, and then we're going to be focusing on the 4-term because that's going to help us for next time. So basically what this is we are trying to figure out what was multiplied together to get a polynomial. So for example, on the last test, y'all maybe had x plus 3 times x minus 2. Okay, well if I FOIL this, okay, I'm just going to give y'all what the final answer would be here. It would be x squared plus x minus 6. If I FOIL that, that is what I get. So now this unit, you are going to be given x squared plus x minus 6, and you're going to have to figure out what was multiplied together to get that. You are going to figure out x plus 3 times x minus 2, and there's going to be a process for that. And if you can get the process down, then it's really, really easy. It just takes a little bit of time to get that process down. Okay, so the very first step of factoring, whether you have 2 terms, 3 terms, 4 terms, 8 terms, doesn't matter how many terms you have, we're going to see that the very first step of factoring is finding the GCF, the greatest common factor. Now, that greatest word is very important because you don't just want any factor. You need to get the biggest factor that goes into the multiple numbers. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the coefficients. We're going to look at those numbers in front. But then there may be a GCF that's also a variable. And if you don't have either for today, we're going to write prime. Okay, there's only going to be, I think, a couple prime on your homework. So here we go. I'll kind of show you the process for how we're going to do this. But we are just looking for the GCF, and then we're going to write what is left. We're going to call it the leftovers. Okay, so number 1, 7x plus 49. So we're going to look at the numbers first. 7 and 49. What's the greatest number that goes into 7 and 49? Okay, well, it's 7. So here's how we're going to do this, just so you can see a better visual of what's going on. Because remember, we're trying to figure out what was multiplied together to get this. So if I want to undo it, I'm going to divide. Okay, so I'm going to divide by 7. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're always going to write our GCF down, and then we're going to write what is left after we divide that out. So if I take 7 divided by 7, that's 1, so I'm left with x, plus 49 divided by 7 is 7. So that right now, that is all we're going to be doing on this. And this is what's going to be the front side of your homework, is you take out the GCF and you write the leftovers. Number 2, okay, there is not a number besides 1 here, so they do both have an x in common. Okay, so I'm going to take an x out of both of these. I'm going to write down what I took out, so I took an x out. Now if I look at this first term, x squared divided by x, I have x squared on top, x on the bottom. 1 is going to cancel, but I'm still going to be left with 1x inside. Plus, these x's cancel, so I'm left with x plus 5. Number 3, okay, I'm going to look at the numbers first, 2 and 6. Okay, 2 is the biggest number that goes into both of those. But then look, they also both have a y. Okay, they both don't have an x, but they do both have a y. So I have 2y, that's my GCF, and then I have to write what's left. Now I know it looks like 2y can just all cancel out, and it can, but you have to think about what is 2 divided by 2. Okay, 2 divided by 2 is 1. You have to have that written down because we need to end up with a binomial in here if that's what we started with. Okay, now I have 6 divided by 2 is 3. My y's cancel, but I'm still left with that x. Okay, notice a way to check these. If you wanted to take your answer, so in this case, in this last one, if I wanted to take 2y and distribute it, it should be 2y plus 6xy. Okay, we have just undone that. Okay, number 4. Okay, I'm going to look at the numbers first. So it looks like 2 goes into all these. Then we're going to look at, do they all have an x? Unfortunately, they don't. The first 2 do, but 8 doesn't. So I'm just dividing everything by 2. So I'm going to write down my GCF. That leaves me with x squared plus 2x plus 4. Okay, number 5, I'm going to look at the numbers first. I have 3, 6, and 22. There's not a number that goes into all of those. Okay, that's okay. Maybe there's a variable. Okay, well I have x squared and x and no x. So they don't even have a variable in common. So what you are going to do is if you see this on your homework, you are going to write prime. There is no GCF. I think there is only 2 of those on the homework. So if you're getting more, then you're doing something wrong. Okay, number 6. I'm going to look at the numbers first. 4 goes into all of them. Okay, and just think about it like 2 also goes into all of them, but that's not the greatest. Okay, so from here, I'm going to look at my variables also. They all have an x. Okay, so 4x is my GCF, and now I'm going to write what's left. So in this first term, 4 divided by 4 is 1. I have x cubed and x. If I subtract those, that leaves me with x squared. Okay, plus 12 divided by 4 is 3. I have x squared up top, x on the bottom. That leaves me with an x. Minus 24 divided by 4 is 6. And those x's cancel out. Next time, we're going to actually have to factor what's left in here. But for today, if you have a trinomial left, you're just going to leave it like that. Okay, I'm going to do these practice problems really quickly. So here, looks like 24 goes into both of these, but they don't both have a variable in common. So I'm going to take 24 out. If I do, that leaves me with x plus 2y. If you want to practice these, just pause the video, work them out, and then you can watch. Number 2, it looks like they both have a 2 in common, and they both have a y in common. And if you want to write it now like this, instead of writing it under each one, you can. You need to write it underneath somehow. So I have 2y. If I divide that out of the first term, that leaves me with y minus 10y divided by 2y is minus 5. Number 3, 2x squared plus 6x minus 18. I know 2 goes into all of these, and I think that's it. They don't all have an x. So if I divided 2 out, that leaves me with x squared plus 3x minus 9. And then this last one, they all have a 5, and they all have an x. So I'm going to take that out. That would leave me with x squared minus 4x minus 5. Again, if you want to pause the video and kind of take those slow, then do that. Okay, now we're going to get a little bit more complicated, not hard, just multiple variables involved. Okay, we're going to go through the same process. We're going to look at the coefficient. Here in this case, we're going to look at the x's, and then we're going to look at the y's, see what they all have in common. Okay, so look at the numbers first. It looks like they all have 6. That's the GCF. Now we're going to look at the x's. So the first term has x to the 4th, second term x cubed, the last term x squared. So they all at least have x squared. Now I'm going to look at the y's. I have y squared, and y squared. So obviously they all have y squared in common. So my GCF is 6x squared y squared Now I have to write down what's left. So if I look at that first term, the 6's are going to divide out to be 1. I have x to the 4th and x squared. That leaves me with x squared. Plus 30 divided, and the y's cancel. 30 divided by 6 is 5. I have x cubed up top, x squared on the bottom. So that's going to leave me with just x. Those y squareds cancel. Minus 30 divided by 6 is 5. The x squareds cancel, the y squareds cancel. So I'm just left with that minus 5. Okay, I'm going to talk through this one, but if you want to pause it and work it out yourself, you can do that. So 20, 32, and 24. I think the biggest number that goes into all of those is going to be 4. Okay, then I'm going to look at the x's. They all have x cubed, and they all have at least a y. So that is my GCF, and then I have to write the leftovers. That's what it's going to say on your homework. 20 divided by 4 is 5. That leaves me with no x's, and then I'm going to have y squared left. Minus 32 divided by 4 is 8. My x cubes cancel. I have y2 up top and 1 on the bottom. That leaves me with y. Plus 24 divided by 4 is 6. X cubes cancel, y's cancel. So that is all I'm left with. Okay. Now is when we're going to get really into the bulk of factoring. So the first step is always going to be to check for a GCF and write what's left. Okay? After you do that and you see what's left, it is then that we're going to look at how many terms are there. Okay? We're going to look at 3 terms next time. We are going to look at 4 terms today, because if we can knock that out today, it makes next times a lot easier. Okay? So we're going to go through these steps. You can always come back to these steps if you need help. You're going to get a lot of practice on your homework. All right, so here we go. Step 1, check for a GCF. So looking at all 4 of these terms, is there anything they all have in common? Nope, doesn't look like it. Okay, so that is done. Step 1. Step 2 says group the first 2 terms together and group the last 2 terms together. Yeah, and let me just remind you, you are going to be doing this on the back of your homework. If you have anything with 4 terms on the front, just make sure you're reading the directions. You are not going to do any grouping on the front side. Okay? Grouping is the process we are going to use to factor. Okay, you're going to see why it's called grouping right now. So it says group first 2 terms and last 2 terms together. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to group the first 2 terms together, and I'm going to group the last 2 terms together. Now this says include the sign of your third term in the parentheses. I actually don't like to do that. I like to leave my sign in between the 2 groups. I'll show you why here in a second. Okay, so group the first 2, group the next 2. Okay, step 2, done. Now what we're going to do is similar to what we've done in the last few slides. We are going to factor out the GCF from each group, and we're going to write down the leftovers. Okay, so here we go. We're going to look at this first group, and we're going to see what do these have in common. Okay, so no number, but now they do have x's in common, and they do both have at least x squared. Okay, so we're going to do what we did on the last few slides. We're going to write down what we took out, and we're going to write down what's left. So if I take x squared out of x cubed, that leaves me with an x, minus 5x squared over x squared. Those x squares are going to cancel. That leaves me with 5. Whatever sign is in the middle here, you are going to bring that down. So plus. Okay, now you always have to take something out here, okay, even if it's just a 1, because we need to end up with a binomial times a binomial, okay? That's going to make more sense here in a second, but you've got to take something out of that second group. But in this case, 3 goes into both of those. Okay, so I am going to take that 3 out, and we're going to write down what's left. If I divide 3 out, that leaves me with x minus 5. All right, so look now. So we've done step 3. Step 4 says, notice that the parentheses match. If they don't match, check your GCS. If these 2 groups right here do not match, you have done something very wrong. Okay, so now here's another kind of confusing part. I am going to show you how to write your binomial factors. We have now figured out what has multiplied together to get that big long thing at the top. Okay, it says the matching set of parentheses will only appear once in your answer. Because they are the same, that is just one of our factors, okay, x minus 5. Okay, so I have done that. Step 5, okay, well, we are going to write down our other factors. So watch this. X minus 5, we've already written that down. Now look at what we have left. If you read this from left to right, we still have x squared plus 3. And that is our other factor, x squared plus 3. Okay? And what we're going to see more next time is we're going to check to make sure the factors can't be factored any further. But we are going to do that more next time. You won't have to worry about that today. Okay, so notice these two binomial factors, binomial times a binomial. If this were to be FOILed, we're not going to because I would get us right back to the beginning. But if this were to be FOILed, it would be x cubed minus 5x squared plus 3x minus 15. And we have now factored that. This is going to be the process that we're going to use for every single problem. When you get it down to 4 terms, the process we will use is grouping. Okay, so moving on to the next one. There we go. So remember the first step is we're going to look for a GCF. Okay, we didn't have one at the very beginning on the last one, but this one we do. Okay, now there's not a number that goes into 4, 20, 3, and 15, but they do all have an x. So we have to divide that x out from the very beginning. So remember, we're going to take it, write that down, and then we're going to divide it out and write what's left. So that leaves me with 4x plus 20 minus 3xy minus 15y. Okay, I haven't even made it to the grouping part yet. I've just taken that x out. Now, when you get it down to 4 terms, we factor by grouping. So I'm going to group the first 2 terms together. I'm going to leave that minus sign in the middle, and then I'm going to group the last 2 terms together. That x that we took out before, that's just going to be part of our answer at the end. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that down at the bottom so I don't forget about it. But for right now, I'm done with that x. Okay, now we're going to look at this first group and see what they have in common. So 4 and 20, 4 goes into both of those. They don't both have an x, so it's just 4 that I'm going to take out. That leaves me with x plus 5. I'm going to bring that minus sign down. And I'm going to look at the second group. So the second group has a 3 and a y. Okay, so I'm going to write that down that I'm bringing that out. Now here's where this gets a little tricky. Because it's easy to look at this first term and say, okay, well 3 divided by 3 is 1, the y's cancel, so I am left with x. But notice what happens if I take negative 15 and I divide it by 3. That leaves me with minus 5. And we just talked about on the last slide that these two parentheses, this one and this one, they need to match. Okay, well plus 5 and minus 5 don't match. And here's why. Okay, notice what we actually took out here. We took out that minus sign and we brought a 3 out. So really, we took out a negative 3. So when we do the dividing here in this step, it's actually a negative 3 that I'm dividing out. So negative 15 divided by negative 3 is positive 5. So now if you notice our groups are the same. So I'm going to write that down as one of my factors, x plus 5. And then I'm going to see what's left. I have 4 minus 3y left. And there's my 3 factors. Again, it does not matter what order you put those in. You can do the 4 minus 3y first, and then the x plus 5. Doesn't matter. Okay, let's look at this next one. So first I'm looking for a GCF. So if I divide everything by 3, so I have 3. That leaves me with x cubed minus 2x squared plus 5x minus 10 if I divide that out. Okay, now I'm done with that 3. It's going to be part of my answer at the end. Now I have it 4 terms, so I'm going to group. Group, group, group. I'm going to look in the first group. I have x cubed minus 2x squared. So there's not a coefficient they have in common, but they do both have x squared. If I take that out, that first term is going to just leave me with x minus 2x squared divided by x squared. That's just going to leave me with 2. Bring that plus sign down. Let's look at the second group. I can take out a 5, and that leaves me with x minus 2. So if you notice our two groups in the parentheses, those are the same. That means we did it right. So I've got x minus 2 as one of mine. And if you see what's left, I have x squared plus 5. So I actually have 3 things that were multiplied together here. 3, x minus 2, and x squared plus 5. Okay, there's some practice problems on this last slide. I'm just going to go over one of them. I'm going to go over, I'll go over number 2, just because it looks like a little bit, actually that's a lot like the one we just did. How about we do number 3, because it's a little bit different. Okay, if you want to pause it and work it out yourself, then watch it, you can. Alright, so first I'm going to look for a GCF, and I don't see one. Okay, so I have 4 terms. I'm going to go straight into grouping. Okay, so I look at this first group. It just has a y in common. So I'm going to take a y out. That's going to leave me with x plus 2. Bring that plus sign down, and my second group has a 3 in common. So that leaves me with x plus 2. Actually, this wasn't very hard. Notice our two groups are the same. So that's one of my factors, x plus 2. And then that also leaves me with y plus 3. You could check these if you wanted to, especially if you forget how to factor and like it's multiple choice. You could take this answer and you could FOIL it, because that's what we're doing. We're like unfoiling, if you want to put it that way. All right, that's it.